Now to Capitol Hill and some tense moments, not over a proposed law, but over how to address a transgender member of Congress. On Capitol Hill, a heated exchange during a hearing on arms control. The issue? How to address a transgender member of Congress.
The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order.
Texas Congressman Keith Self referred to Delaware Congresswoman Sarah McBride, the first transgender person elected to Congress, as Mr.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
McBride appeared ready to move on, taking a jab of her own at Congressman Self.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
But Massachusetts Congressman Bill Keating intervened. He asked Self to repeat that introduction.
Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
Self later posting, it is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female, referring to an executive order signed by President Trump. McBride posting, no matter how I'm treated by some colleagues, nothing diminishes my awe and gratitude at getting to represent Delaware in Congress. I simply want to serve and try to make this world a better place. McBride's election also prompted Republicans to propose a ban on transgender people using Capitol Hill bathrooms that correspond with their gender identity.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So once again, we got to talk about the Democrats and the mainstream liberal media that seem to be hell-bent on destroying the Democrat Party in any chance they have of reviving their dead party, okay? Because the Democrats have decided that instead of getting on board with 80% of the American people, nope, they're going to double and triple down on being against 80% of the American people, especially when it comes to this issue of trans athletes in sports, which we have talked about quite a bit. And there are some Democrats like Gavin Newsom who's at least smart enough to pretend as if he is on the side of 80% of the American people, except nobody is buying it.
And you know what's proving that point? When you look at like Gavin Newsom on his podcast with Charlie Kirk, right?
He wants it so bad, bro. That motherfucker's thirsty.
Exactly. But you see how quick he is to distance himself from trans athletes and stuff like that. So now it's like, oh, so you never cared.
No, they never cared.
You never gave a fuck. It was just all about politics for you.
Yes.
It's all about that for all politicians, though, right?
Absolutely. But some people show it better than others. Some people act like they care better than others.
Yeah, you need to learn how to lie better.
And I don't think Democrats are going to win so easily in 2028. I think that because the Democrats are in such disarray, America will say, you know what, just give me a sensible Republican. Just give me a traditional conservative.
Yeah.
Like, give me a Nikki Haley, just somebody, just a regular conservative. I can deal with that.
Okay, again, it's not just the Democrats that are afraid to stand up with 80% of the American people, but also the liberal media as well, too, because they're now parading around and platforming transgender individuals to highlight their victimhood, right? The fact that they are victims of President Trump and his policies that have been deemed as anti-trans, taking away their rights. Like, for example, declaring that there are only two sexes, or not allowing biological boys to compete against biological girls in sports, or trying to ban gender-affirming care. These are all things that the activists claim are anti-trans.
Mulvaney says she never wanted to be an activist, but has found herself navigating a society that's not always supportive of trans rights.
On his first day in office, President Trump signed the order which recognized two sexes, male and female. When you heard that pronouncement, what did you think?
It didn't change any way that I think about myself, because I'm a woman no matter what my passport says. We are not hurting anyone. We're less than 1% of the population. And the way that they speak about us so often is as if we're like taking over cities like Godzilla. We're just being our authentic selves.
The Trump administration has also tried to ban gender-affirming care for people under the age of 19. A federal court has blocked that for now.
And what do you say to those who do question gender-affirming care, believing that it could be irreversible and lead to problems later in life, even cause regrets?
I don't have the lived experience of a trans child that was able to seek out that care, but I ultimately do believe that parents know their child better than a government does. We should let those families figure out what is best for them.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Okay, so what we have here is a boohoo, whining, and crying fest, right? That is what they're doing, okay? Instead of just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to side with 80% of the American people. No. Democrats and the liberal media, an arm of the Democrat Party, okay? The narrative that is pushed in the mainstream liberal media comes from the Democrats, right? We got to understand that they're one and the same at this point. They're colluding, okay? So, again, instead of siding with 80% of American people, they're saying, nah. We're going to double and triple down on what lost us the election, right? This is what they're doing, okay? It's kind of crazy to witness what is happening here, but we have another boohoo, whining, crying fest to talk about because Democrats and liberal media upset over GOP rep Keith Sepp misgendering, aka calling Sarah McBride, who is a representative, a trans representative from Delaware, Mr. In this House hearing. Okay, you had a Democrat by the name of Bill Kading. He lost his mind over this and decided to get all upset about the Republican misgendering Sarah McBride.
I have to play white devil's advocate here because I understand where Mr. Self is coming from because I, too, have been wondering what to do in this situation because as Keith Self explained on social media, and I'm quoting him here, it is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. Why? Because one of President Trump's early moves of his second term was to sign an executive order that the federal government would only recognize two sexes, and they were not changeable. Okay, an executive order was signed. It's right there in black and white. I don't know what to do in this situation. It's all so confusing. So, William Keating, you getting frustrated with Mr. Self when all he's doing is what your boss told him to do. Did a memo go out telling members of Congress what to do in this situation after Trump signed that executive order? Of course it didn't. So I'm not really upset at Keith Self for doing what the president told him to do. What I am upset about, and the reason I'm giving Keith Self donkey today, is because he adjourned the session. See, these petty culture wars are hurting democracy. You heard me say earlier that they were in the middle of a hearing on arms control and U.S. assistance to Europe. I kind of know what that is. I believe I know what that means, but I know one thing for sure. That panel is more important than whether or not Sarah McBride is referred to as Mr. or Miss. And you know who knows that better than anyone? Sarah McBride. See, on other occasions, Republicans presiding over the floor and in hearings have either tried to stay away from the issue by referring to Sarah as the member from Delaware, even though the custom is to refer to lawmakers as gentlemen or gentlewomen. I actually like them just referring to her as the member from Delaware, even though I don't know if Sarah has had their member surgically removed. But Sarah rarely discusses or calls attention to her identity. Okay, this is how she conducted herself on her campaign and in her first months of Congress. She prefers to talk about economic issues, and that's what I want all you elected officials to do. Focus on the actual issues that impact our world. Okay, Keith Self, there's no reason to adjourn a meeting because you was challenged on calling Sarah a him. When William Keating says you out of order, say, well, hey, the president signed an executive order, and that's what I'm following. But to take your ball and run home because your ego got bruised? Come on, man. Grow up. You a member of Congress. We got bigger issues to deal with. You can't just take your balls and go home, and neither can Sarah McBride. Ironically, she's the only person in this situation with balls. So you're right, Keith. But you're also wrong. Please give Representative Keith Self the biggest hee-haw. It's just bigger issues to deal with, guys. And girls. And girl guys.
It's crazy.
Well, thank you for that.
Big issues to deal with. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for that donkey today.
Yeah.
So I want to react to the cackling hands on the View who are going to double and triple down on destroying the Democrat Party because they're going to rage over this incident of quote-unquote misgendering. So without further ado, let's get into it.
A Congressional Foreign Relations Subcommittee was adjourned abruptly after the chairman refused to properly address Delaware Congresswoman Sarah McBride. Take a look.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I mean, I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
That's right.
You know what you call that? We call that a super simp, right? That guy was simping hard, right? Yeah. I would be surprised that Democrat, after this hearing, went up to Sarah McBride and asked for Sarah's number, right? Wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all, okay? When you sip it that hard, okay? Even Sarah McBride didn't seem to be all that bothered by it, at least not at first, okay? I mean, now Sarah's making a big deal about it. But, you know, at first, Sarah was just going to read, you know, and keep it moving. But again, it's the Democrat that had to come to Sarah's defense. And yeah, that is how that went down.
So the people of Delaware voted for Congresswoman McBride. So why is it so difficult for people to understand that she was elected by her constituents? They know Sarah McBride. So I say, if you're so concerned about protecting who you consider women, why don't you spend less time monitoring bathrooms and address the material mortality crisis in this country when it comes to when it comes to black women? Why don't you end the 15% gender gap? Make sure women have access to health care and contraception. Investigate cases of missing or murdered indigenous women. If you care that much that you got to do all that, if you care about women, why don't we feel it? I don't understand.
Wow, so performative. So performative. First and foremost, half of those things that Whoopi just talked about were made up, right? None of these things that she talked about, half of it, they aren't real problems, okay? But Democrats don't care about women at all, right? This is why those quote-unquote problems still exist, is because Democrats don't care about women. And what you're saying here is Democrats falling for the same trap that Republicans have set for them time and time and time again. A story like this should not be national news. They should not be talking about this on The View, right? It's not a big deal, okay? No matter how triggered you are by it. But the fact they're talking about it, again, it just means that the Democrats are doubling, tripling down on something that is a turnoff to 80% of the American people, right? And that's what they don't understand. That's what they don't realize. If they just stop talking about it, right, then it will go away. Then it won't be that big of an issue. If they stop coming out here and trying to play Captain Save a transgender person, then, hey, it wouldn't be that big of an issue. But because they want to do this, because they want to be the savior of trans people, right, because they want to coddle them and pretend as if they're victims, they don't realize that they're doubling and tripling down on something that, again, they claim they don't want to talk about, right? Democrats keep saying, we don't want to talk about it, right? There's such a small population of people. Why are we talking about it? Well, the reason why we're talking about it is because you continuously stand against 80% of the American people. And as long as you continue to do that, we will continue to talk about it. We will keep talking about it, right? Again, that's what Democrats don't understand. All they have to do is just stand with 80% of American people, and we're not having a conversation about this anymore, right? We're not. It's done. It's over. Boom. We don't even have to talk about it. But again, they're going to sit here and they're going to say, well, we need to be talking about other things. But you're the one. You guys are the ones that decided to make this a topic to talk about on national television when you could have just not talked about it.
This is the new scapegoat is transgender people, it seems. And they always have to have somebody to blame and to focus on so that you don't watch them steal your money in Social Security and Medicaid, in your taxes, while they give big tax breaks to billionaires. It's a way of distracting American people from the real issues.
Well, and by the way, this was a
about.
hearing on arms control and international security and U.S. assistance to Europe, actual issues that matter. And I'm sorry, I come from the more libertarian side of the Republican Party. Live and let live. She ran as Sarah McBride. She was elected by the voters as Sarah McBride. And listen, I think people of good faith can have different opinions on policy around trans issues. I do not think there is any way that you can treat somebody without dignity and respect in how they want to be viewed.
It comes from the top.
Yeah, but aside from being completely disgraceful and embarrassing to watch, the way that grown man who is in our Congress is treating a fellow congressperson disgusting. But this is what I say about putting your party over the people, because this is Representative McBride came here. We all loved her. She's a common sense person. That's how she got voted in.
Wow.
And she votes for bringing down the cost of living, raising the federal minimum wage to $15, cutting unnecessary red tape with federal government spending. We've heard that's kind of a big issue to them. This is someone they could work across the aisle, but they'd rather dismiss what we pay them to do, have these hearings and meetings, because he couldn't spit out the decent title of a fellow congressperson. Disgusting.
Wow, incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Clearly they didn't watch the clip, right? Because it was the Democrat that made the meeting go off track, right? If the Democrat didn't lose his mind, again, trying to play Captain Save a Trans person, right? Then the media would have just went on, okay? I don't even think that Sarah McBride was all that hurt by it, to be honest with you. I'm just saying, at least that's what it looked like to me. These people are more hurt than the so-called victim. But again, these are your so-called moderates here, right? Sarah Hayes tries to present herself as a moderate. Well, I'm a moderate, right? AKA a Democrat, right? Also, Alyssa Ferry Griffin. Well, I come from the libertarian side of the Republican Party. Live and let live, AKA a liberal, right? She's a liberal, okay? That's what she is. Again, all of these women are extremely liberal, okay? They're much more liberal than the American populace. And that's what they don't understand. They don't understand that they're out of touch. And them coming out here, again, and talking about this issue is the reason why Democrats can't move past this issue. This is the reason why we continue to have to talk about it, right? Because they keep standing against the American people, okay? The American people have said, you know what? This issue is settled. It's a done issue, but Democrats continue to want to have this conversation. And that's the problem. And then they turn around, they boohoo, whine, and cry about, well, why are we talking about health care? I don't want to talk about health care with people who don't believe in basic biology. Right? What do I have to talk about when it comes to healthcare? Healthcare with people who don't believe in basic biology. When Democrats acknowledge basic facts about reality, then we can have other conversations. Until then, no conservative, no Republican should have any conversation with a Democrat until they acknowledge basic biological facts and reality. I'm so serious.
That whole idea of have you no decency. That's a throwback to the House Un-American Activities Committee back when they were hunting people and saying they were communists. It was McCarthyism.
You know, what I will say, the one silver lining that I saw was that I saw a true allyship in that moment. I saw someone say, you don't get to disrespect and demean my colleague. And we need to see more of that, I think, in this country.
Wow. Referring to somebody by their biological sex is demeaning and disrespectful.
Because we don't see enough of it. The other thing that I will say is Laverne Cox, the famous and wonderful Laverne Cox, openly trans woman, said it perfectly on our show. They are focused on the wrong 1%. The transgender community is 1% of the world. We need to start talking about the 1% of billionaires that are privatizing our country, privatizing our government, and stealing our money from us.
Here we go. Millionaires pointing the finger at the billionaires. Right there, the problem. The billionaires are the problem. I love it. I absolutely love it. But hey, since Democrats hate billionaires so much, then how about the Democrats just kick out all the billionaires from their party, right? How about billionaires stop giving Democrats money, right? And Democrats stop accepting money from billionaires, right? How about that, right? How about that? When Democrats do that, then I will believe them when it comes to their rhetoric about billionaires, right? Until then, I think pointing the finger at the billionaires, right, I think is the actual distraction from the issues that we have in this country, mainly the Democrat Party being a party that is not grounded in reality.
That's what we need to talk about.
Well, historically, they always go after the smallest percentage because they can't fight back.
It's low-hanging fruit.
That's why we need that allyship.
When Sarah McBride was here, she distinctly said, I am not running to focus on trans issues. I'm running to focus on what my voters elected me, on cost of living. And I feel like a few members, because they want to dunk and they want to get clicks, keep trying to goad her into fights she's not even trying to have. She showed up and doing her job.
Brilliant. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
And, it's just, it is, look, when we come back, there's more to talk about, but I'm just going to say this before we go. We are in this nation, watching what people will do to each other if we don't reteach people how to act.
Yeah.
This will become the norm again.
Yes.
We fought for years to get respect for women, respect for gay folks, respect for trans folks, Asian folks, Spanish folks, white women, black women, people. We must be very vigilant on this, because if we're not, this is going to start up again.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can claim to respect women, but at the same time, you don't know what a woman is. You are advocating for biological men to compete against women in sports, right? Like, how can you say that we have to respect women when you are allowing biological males in their spaces? I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't think those two things go together. I don't think they mix, right? I don't think they're compatible, okay? But, you know, hey, like I said, The View seems to be leading the way for the Democrat Party to destroy themselves, right? They're bringing Democrats on the show, and they're making Democrats take extreme positions, right? The same positions that lost Democrats the election, right? The View is trying to make Democrats double and triple down on it. And if that's what they're going to do, great, right? If that's what they want to do, great. Because, again, the American people have rejected this. But, you know, The View is not the view of the American people. It's not the view of women across the country. It's just the view of far left, deranged liberal women who apparently think that this battle, when it comes to, you know, whether or not we believe in, you know, basic biology, they think that fight is worth fighting, right? Even though they've lost. They thoroughly lost, but they continue to fight this losing battle, and they're dragging Democrats down behind them. It's fascinating stuff. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share. A Black conservative perspective. Peace.